my first question for you is, how do you feel about the new record?
That's great.
Feel great?
I feel good about it. I feel good about every record that I put out at the point that it comes out, but we'll see what it feels like next year when we're midway through the tour. You only really get to know the songs when you start playing them in front of an audience, because then you'll see which ones are the most popular. So I'm excited for that to happen, although it's not happening until next year. But yeah, I feel good about it.
That's good. Yeah. Wait, is there anything? It's interesting. I mean, kind of coming back to record and always feeling good about whatever you're putting out. And so, how do you feel like this one fits maybe in your discography?
It's just the next one. I mean, I don't really think about things like that. Yeah. It's just the next one along. Right now, as it's vastly different to anything that's gone before, I suppose it's kind of unique. But you know, in 10 years' time, it'll just be a couple of albums ago. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. But it's definitely at the moment, it definitely stands alone with all the records that I've ever made as being not a complete departure, but people will notice a significant difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I guess, how do you expect fans to respond to this one?
I think it'll be mixed.
Yeah.
It's always mixed. You know, I don't think I've ever put a record out where everyone has gone, oh, it's amazing. There's just, the percentages shift, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'll be honest and say that from what I can gather already, it's heavily mixed. People either love it or hate it. And the funny thing is the people who hate it haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, right.
So they've just heard about it, you know, and they've heard about the French Girl, and they've heard about, you know, songs with very little singing in them, and electronic sounds and dance beats and all that kind of thing. So those people are not having it at all. But I think when it comes out, people are going to turn their views around, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always good to, I think, it's always good to be putting out stuff that's divisive. At least, you know, it gets people...
Well, to be honest, the first thing that went out was Holy Mountain, and I knew that was going to be divisive, and that was the point. And it only works if it's a great song, though, and I love it, and I'm proud of it. And when the next track was... which people thought it was a single, it's not a single, it was just a track that was put out there. When that went up and there was more division, I was thinking, oh, these people are not going to like it from here on in then. So it'll be fascinating to see how this all pans out, and particularly when like I say before, particularly when you get out live and you can play it to people, and you can stare them down while you're doing it, while someone's singing in French with a pair of scissors going, yeah? This is fucking happening.
Can we talk about the scissors?
Yeah, you can talk about the scissors if you want. Yeah.
So, can you talk? Well, what are the scissors?
So we're doing a track called "It's a Beautiful World" on British television a couple of weeks ago, and we were rehearsing it. And the girl that does the French announcement, that bit doesn't come in for about 2 or 3 minutes. So I said to her, would she consider playing a tambourine? And she said, in that very French way, I don't play the tambourine. And I said, shakers? And she's like, no. And she is actually in a band called Le Volume Courbe. And in that band, she's the lead singer, but she also plays the scissors. So she said, I can play the scissors. And I was like, really? And when the scissors appeared and she started playing them in a cape, I thought, this is going to fucking blow people's minds, because it blew mine, you know what I mean? Right. And then we did it on the TV, and the world ended. Yeah, right. For some people.
Yeah, it really did. I mean, it's not something you really see every day.
Well, no, but if you go on the internet and type in her band's name, there she is playing the scissors, and I've got to say, I was rendered speechless, and she's great. Her name is Charlotte. She is the scissor queen. She is an absolute fucking hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She plays the scissors. You've been making music for a couple of decades now, and kind of always in the spotlight when you put out new music, given your success with your solo work and with Oasis. And so I'm kind of curious, when you're coming back to the creative well, you know, how do you do that? Or like, what is it when you're coming back into this and being like, okay, I'm gonna sit down, I'm going to write something. There's all this stuff behind you, and so, you know.
Well, I've always had that, because Oasis's first album was such a big deal in England, and the second one was an even bigger deal worldwide. I've always written under those circumstances of, you have this weight of the past behind you. So it's nothing new to me.
Yeah.
And I think you've just got to focus on what you're doing, and you've got to realise that not everything you do is going to be great. You know, nobody's perfect. You know, you're going to write some songs that are great. You're going to write some that are good. You're just going to write some that are okay, and you're going to write some that are not great. And like I keep saying, you put it out, and the people decide.
Yeah, right.
So, and you've got to realise your limitations and own it and believe in it, and that's it. And then make another one after that. You know, it's like when people have been freaking out about how they perceive this album is going to be, and I just say to them, well, look, it's only a record, right? It's only music.
Yeah.
You know, we're not trying to develop, you know, the cure for cancer here. You know, if you don't like this one, you might like the next one, you know, and then the one after that. So, I don't know, people, I just don't really overthink anything, if I'm being honest.
Was there a moment in your career where you maybe had that? That's a very serene kind of look at things, or kind of, and so was there a moment you could remember where you kind of had that moment of realization?
When I was just talking about the first two albums being a kind of weighed down, not weighed down by expectation, but they do carry a lot of weight of expectation. The upside to that is they're extremely successful.
Right.
So that in itself takes a bit of the pressure off, because you think, well, my first two records were two of the most successful British albums of all time.
Yeah.
If I never write another song after this, I've done more than most people.
Yeah.
So it depends how you weigh it up. You know, some people cannot deal with it at all, no matter what they do. They cannot deal with success or failure or mediocrity.
Yeah.
I've had it all in my career so far, and it doesn't faze me at all, because I know that for every creative peak that you reach, sooner or later, you're going to end up in the valley again. You know what I mean? And that's all part of the story. And I like it on the way up. I like getting to the top. You know, it's kind of even fascinating when you feel that it's kind of slipping away. And I've also enjoyed the kind of the climbing back up the mountain again. So it doesn't faze me at all.
Yeah. I was watching, in prepping for this interview, I watched the Oasis doc that came out last year, and there was this kind of crazy moment. Well, one, just seeing what it was like when you guys put out those records like that. I mean, I'm from America in Iowa. Like, I didn't have any context, and I was like 6 years old when that. And so, like, but seeing just the insanity around it all, and but you were saying in an interview that's in that piece, and you were like, these records are going to stand the test of time.
I knew it then. I knew it back then.
Yeah, and I thought, and it's interesting hearing you say this now, because it's like, they obviously did, and when they came out, they were the biggest thing in the world, but you still kind of have the same level approach, which I think is very...
So there was those first two records, astonishing success worldwide. Then the third album, I thought it was the greatest thing ever, until I got out on the road. And then once we were playing those songs off Be Here Now, in between Rock and Roll Start and Don't Look Back in Anger and Champagne Supernova, it quickly became apparent that actually this is not a great record.
Right.
And you only get that when you're playing it in front of a live audience. Do you start to think, well, maybe we got this one wrong?
Yeah, right.
But I've always been quite aware of what I've been doing, even before anybody else. You know what I mean? It's kind of not. I've never. Nobody can say anything to me about anything that I've ever done that I didn't already think anyway. You know. Mm-hmm. So when people were saying, "You're the greatest thing since the Beatles," I was thinking, "Of course we are." You know. And when they were saying, "You know, you've lost it," I would think, "Well, I have a little bit." You know what I mean? Yeah. So I wouldn't say I was one step ahead of the game all the time, but I'm pretty much usually on it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Usually on it.
You seem a little bit more self-aware than other musicians that I've talked to.
Yeah, so they say.
Well, so talking more about the new record, you know, what are you hoping? You know, you were mentioning getting it out in front of people, which is interesting because I feel like artists don't really talk about performing their music in front of people like that.
Because they're miming it most of the time.
Sorry?
Because they're miming most of the time.
Well, so you know, what could for this Facebook Live, we put out some questions, or we asked your fans for some questions, and one of somebody asked, I'm going to say their name so they feel good, Mary Smith.
I know Mary.
Yeah, you know Mary. Yeah, that's honestly, I didn't make that name up. But Mary Smith would like to know about the set list for your upcoming tour and kind of what fans can expect when you're out there.
I started working on it about 3 days ago, and I'm already on to the 6th draft. And they're always tricky, and sometimes you don't get. I mean, I was looking back at some old set lists from the last tour. I didn't really settle on anything for a good 4 or 5 months. Mm-hmm. Again, you've got to try out as many songs as possible, and then it kind of becomes apparent how you pace it, and do you do the right amount of old stuff and new stuff and kind of obscure stuff that only like hardcore fans will appreciate. But I have to say, I'm looking at a list of all the new songs, and I'm looking at, and there could be a point where we play this album in its entirety.
Oh, really?
Because we did a month's rehearsal before we went out with U2 and kicked some of the new songs around a bit, and they all sounded pretty good. Mm-hmm. But I haven't settled on anything. I can tell you that I'll be doing Don't Look Back in Anger.
Okay. Yeah.
That's as much as I can tell you.
All right. Okay. That's great.
And Holy Mountain will probably get an airing at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've got to get in a room with the band, and then we've kind of all got to, debate it and all that kind of thing. But it'll be great.
Yeah. Is there anything, we've been talking about your career, and is there anything just looking? Do you feel any misconceptions about who you are? I feel like
from other people?
Yeah, from other people.
Of course. Yeah. Of course.
And I guess could you talk about those a little bit, or kind of?
Well, I don't. I don't have social media accounts. Mm-hmm. I don't get a live feed of what people are saying. My daughter is usually my when she comes in from school, she'll say, "Oh God, look at this." But I don't want anybody to know anything about me. Mm-hmm. So whatever the misconceptions are, that's my fault, and fault, if you can call it fault. And I've probably I cultivate that. I'm not an overly private person, but I don't give a shit what they think about me.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It couldn't bother me in the slightest. Some people, sit and have direct contact with their fans through Twitter and all that kind of thing, and I don't think that's healthy for either your fans or you, because then you can't detach yourself from it. And I, for one, I'm not bothered what Mary Smith thinks about me.
Yeah, right.
No offence, Mary, but whatever her opinion is of me, then that's all it is.
Yeah. Right.
I only really care what my wife and kids think about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And my cat. My cat is important.
What's the name of your cat?
My cat is called Boots.
Boots?
Yeah. If he didn't like me, life wouldn't be worth living. For him.
I mean, I'm curious, because I think what you're speaking, or how you're speaking about social media, obviously you're a celebrity, but I think that applies kind of across the board, and it's definitely affecting the way that people think culturally. I mean,
I get it. Don't
totally.
don't understand. I get it. It's a huge thing now. My daughter is 17, and it's not her life, but that is young people's currency. I get it. It's not for me. The little I do know about it, it seems to be a platform for lots of people shouting at each other about shit that they're ill-informed about.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's not really for me, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, do you see that? I'm curious on like almost an existential level. How do you see that affecting culture or art or music like that? Like, do you see? Because I think things now, you know, when an artist puts out music, it's way different than when like the first Oasis album came out. You know, and it's like there's expectations, but it's in a different way. And I'm curious, as someone who's been in the industry for you know this amount of time, how you seen that?
Tiny little subtle things like the minute you do a show, everybody knows your set list.
Right.
So you'll be in, you know, South Korea, and someone will say, "You never change your set list." I'm like, "How the fucking hell would you know?"
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're not being nosy on the internet, it's like it is. This is what we're playing here tonight. But you play same in Milwaukee. So fucking what?
Yeah. Right.
There's that, and I guess now you get you as I understand it, you will get instant feedback. You know, I know people when they put singles out, the first thing they do is go to the comments page and see if people like it, and it's like live focus grouping. But it's not something I'm. Like I say, I understand it. Am I interested in it? Not in the slightest. No, but I get it.
Yeah, right. Makes sense. There was a headline floating around today or the last couple of days about the comment you made in an interview about how Kanye influenced your new album. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, we were in the studio the day that Fade came out, and I got very excited because I love that track.
It's a very good song.
I went to the studio and we were listening to it in the big speakers, and as we were being blown away by it, we started talking about that track, The Power, off whatever album it's off, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of his, but I have got various tracks. And my producer said, "You should do a track like that." And I was like, "What? Like Kanye? Get out of it!" And if you play the two back to back, they kind of, you can see how The Power has influenced Fort Knox, and that was it really. Like the chanting of the girls and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
And David, my producer, was saying, "Well, let's just pretend that you're doing this track and Kanye's going to come and put a rap on it." He never did show up.
Yeah, no. Did you ask him?
No, I don't know him. No, I don't know him. No, I don't know him. I'm not. If I was on a major record label, somebody would have made it happen, right? Yeah. And it would have been a big deal. But as I don't have a record deal around the world, I kind of I do my own thing. It's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get Kanye's phone number? But if you're watching Kanye and you want to put a little rap on it, be my guest. I do like him though. I'm not. Yeah. I'm a fan of him as a guy because he's fascinating.
Yeah,
as a dude.
Yeah.
And when he comes to England, he seems to step it up a little bit because his interviews are unbelievable. They're nearly as good as mine. And he's great. And some of it, actually, his good tunes are great. His good tunes are fucking great. But I
mean, it's interesting, like, thinking about the record, because what we were talking about before we kind of went on, it's like, listening to it from my perspective, I think it's like, it's a very big record, and there's a lot of, it was a surprising listen, I guess, for me too, as well, because it's just like, it kind of seems to take like what I love about your music, but then kind of make there's just all these layers, and it's kind of, it's weird at times, and I think it's really interesting to be challenging yourself. And if you're talking about someone like Kanye, he's someone who like reinvents himself every record. And so I think, you know, I think it's really interesting to see you like kind of trying to not reinvent yourself, but like try out things that are definitely weird and maybe uncomfortable.
David Holmes, when we decided we were going to make a record, refused to entertain any songs that were previously written. He said, "You're going to do this all in the studio." So it was born out of nothing.
Interesting.
And
why did he say?
Because that's just the way that he works. He wants to be there, and thank God, he was there, because what would happen? I would come up with something like a germ of an idea, and he would say, "Right, this is what was going to be this song," and then, metaphorically speaking, he would say, "But instead of you going down this route, why don't you just see what's over there?" Mm-hmm. And any time I would write something on top of a germ of an idea that sounded remotely like Oasis or anything I'd done before, he would stop and say, no, you've done all that before. And I remember him saying, "Look, you know, you can sit there and strum that acoustic guitar for the rest of your life and rewrite Wonderwall and If I Had a Gun and Dying of the Light, and you're the best at that. Mm-hmm. And you're the king, and your fans love you, and it's undeniable. So, but, you know, for this record, let's just flip the coin and see where it lands, you know." Mm-hmm. And thank God, you know what I mean? Because if I could never have written a record like this before I went in the studio. I was in no rush to get a French girl in a cape, playing the scissors on a track. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But if you enter into a thing with the right spirit of adventure, those kind of things happen, and you go with it, you know?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. This is actually kind of, so Matthew Reevy asked the question, has your new approach to writing on Who Built the Mood made you more open to the idea of collaboration? Or would you still view co-writing as a potential threat to a song connecting and being authentic?
The only times I've ever co-written is for other people, for their record. I guess if I did start co-writing, you know, I'm of this opinion about co-writing. If me and someone else are going to co-write stuff for me, why don't we just start a band?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because I don't understand the concept to have, you know, a load of people. You're a solo artist, and yet you're writing with someone else. Surely that is the essence of what a band is. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're good at writing the music but not good at writing the lyrics, or good at writing the words and not good at writing the music, start a band. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Fuck me. It's not rocket science. Yeah. But I don't know if I guess I'd love to co-write with Johnny Marr. Mm-hmm. But then again, I'd love to start a band with Johnny Marr. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Or Weller and Johnny Marr. So it's not something that I'm open. It's not something I'm thinking of, to be honest. I've got too much stuff going on.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
I'd love to work with, what's his name, Pharrell.
You want to work with Pharrell?
I don't want to. I'd love to. I'm not saying he came up to me at an award ceremony once when he was on that run of those tunes, Get Lucky, Happy and Freedom. Yeah. And he was a huge Oasis fan back in the day, and he came up and he said, in that way that he does, you know, "When you're ready, call me, we can work together." And I kind of like, yeah, as my wife is punching me in the ribs going, "Fucking call him." And I'm like, "You don't want to work with me." And she's like, "He fucking said." So I do a track with him, for sure. Yeah.
So Pharrell is watching.
He's a genius, man.
Yeah. We got a new Nerd album coming, I think.
Yeah, so I read something.
Yeah, it should be great. What is the song that you're most proud of on this new record? That's a question from Sean Buckley.
Holy Mountain.
Holy Mountain?
Yeah. It was the first thing that we attempted, and it was the first thing that was completed, and it's all built around a sample from a band called The Ice Cream, and the song was called Chewing Gum Kid. And we found the sample, got it cleared, and re-recorded this sample. It was just the the little flute thing, the annoying little riff that goes round and round and round. David said to me, do you think you could write a song around that? And I was like, if it fucking kills me, I'll write a song around that, because it's so annoying that it's almost brilliant, you know what I mean? And I think that, because that set the tone and the benchmark of the record. So I'd say that one, really. And it's a beautiful world, because it's got these great elements to it.
Right. What is it like, I guess, you've seen the world change quite a bit, I think, probably over the last couple of decades, and how has that affected just yourself as a musician? I mean, something that we're always talking about now in our editorial meetings, and there's discussion online and different publications, is if is in like the age of Trump and in this world that we are in now, do musicians with platforms or like artists have a responsibility to speak out or say things about that? And I'm just curious, as you've seen, I mean, especially coming from your perspective in England, what has happened there in the last 2 years, you know, what, like, do you have a feeling that you should use your platform for something, or is that not something that musicians should be held accountable for?
It depends how you feel as an individual. Me personally, I'll say this, but if you're a guy, you're strapping on a guitar these days, you're almost obliged to write about the news.
Yeah.
Now, that's not me.
Yeah.
That is not me. I think what I'm doing is almost revolutionary in this day and age, which is trying to squeeze as much joy out of a song as possible. The trouble with protest songs or that kind of thing is they're usually not very good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. They're almost certainly, without fail, not very memorable. And but I guess if that's your thing, that's your thing. It's not my thing.
Right.
It's not my thing. Yeah. And I think too much is said. I can't speak for this country. Donald Trump doesn't affect my life. So, I mean, it affects the environment a little tiny bit for my kids, but the rest of it I'm not interested in. In England, the Brexit thing, it's just like, I can't believe there's so much noise about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like it was put to the people as a vote. The people voted. That's democracy. Fucking get over it. You know, I didn't vote because I didn't think we should have been given the vote in the first place, because as ordinary members of the public, how the fuck are you qualified to talk about the breakup of the oldest continent in the fucking world? Yeah. So, and then the people trying to get the vote overturned, they used to call that fascism. Right? Yeah. But they don't call it fascism anymore, you know what I mean? Because they're fucking right on. Now, personally, I don't think we should have left the union, because I feel right at the time of it happening, we turned our back on the French. We were going through some like dark terrorist shit. But it's happened now. It was a legal vote. Fucking get on, get it done. Let's move on.
Yeah.
That's my view on it all.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Do you feel like, I mean, something that I feel like we're constantly saying, and maybe this is just because I'm constantly inundated with information, just working on the internet and online and in media.
Yeah, you see, you want to be like me and don't get involved in it. It's kind of like, you're just clean and serene, and it's just like...
It sounds great, yeah. But I feel like the world is going crazy a little bit.
But you spend too much time on the internet.
Yeah.
There's too much chatter.
Yeah.
There's like... There isn't going to be an apocalypse. There isn't going to be an apocalypse. That little fucking fat guy from North Korea, he's not going to blow fuck all up. He's not.
Yeah.
You know, we have a problem with terrorism in our country. That's the main thing, is they're allowing bombers to roam the fucking streets in all the European, and they have the right to do it. That's the fucking sickest thing. They have the right to do it. The world won't end, though. You know, if humanity is wiped out, it'll be wiped out by a disease of some fucking kind. Do you know what I mean? That no one finds the cure for. But you live in here. Yeah, Donald Trump. Wow, It's fucking mind-blowing. But like I say, I'm not an American, so I find it difficult to muster the passion for the debate that you guys have.
Yeah. I mean, I think even people who live here are starting to have trouble mustering.
I seen an advert on the TV this morning. It was like some guy is like trying to impeach the president. So it's like an advert to get it's like hashtag impeach the Trump or something. It's like, wow, he's only going to be around for fucking 8 years at the best of times anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, sometimes you've got to reach the bottom to realise where it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People spend too much time fucking bitching about politics. None of us really know anything about politics. Do we?
Yeah, I
don't know. Fuck. I mean, do you know anything about particularly
really.
American politics?
I mean,
what's a filibuster? What's that? That sounds like a make of dog.
Do you know it? I can explain what a filibuster is if you want.
I'm really not interested.
Yeah. I can tell you. That makes sense. I think that's fair. I think it's interesting to think about it that way, because I think that there is something, especially with my generation and kids who are younger than me, like where I think like this, just the constant flow of information into our brains is like fucking with how we think.
But my generation used to communicate through art, through music and art. Now your generation communicates through ill-informed misinformation and fucking shouting and exclamation marks and emojis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's how the youth communicate.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was growing up, it was, you had television, music, art, not even fashion. Nobody gave a shit about fashion when I was growing up. And that was it, You were forced, if you wanted a voice, you were forced to be creative. Now you can be somebody. You can be an internet superstar. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think, as someone who is looking at my generation or saying those things, like, how do you feel that that's maybe affecting the way that we think or make art, or like, do you have any fear for my generation or anything like that? Or?
No, like I say, my daughter's 17, and she is very, very switched on, and she's cool as fuck. And when she comes round to mine with her friends, they've got their own language. It is English, but it's kind of like, what are they talking about?
Yeah, right.
No, I don't. The new youth. This is just their thing. Do you know what I mean? Growing up in a world of social media, the social media is their currency. Ours was completely different. So it's for someone who's lived. I was born in the '60s, raised in the '70s and '80s, and all that. How it affects art, you can't really say whether it's good or bad, but it does affect art. And the internet is not all bad.
Right.
It's clearly the most astonishing fucking thing that's ever been invented in all of our lifetimes. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you see some incredible things, like goats singing. You know what I mean? And
did you say goats singing?
Yeah, goats singing. Yeah, and who doesn't want to watch a fucking 45-minute video of cats fucking trying to, get inside the TV? I mean, that shit's fucking unbelievable. Yeah. And but it does affect art, but whether it affects it for good or for worse is irrelevant, really. Right.
Yeah. It's just how it is.
Yeah, it's just how. This is just how it is.
This is the world in which we live. Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, is there? How do you feel then about like this album that's coming out in this world now? Like, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, thinking like, what if those first two Oasis albums came out today? Like, what the response would be, or how it would exist now? And I don't even think that question could even be answered. But just thinking about,
as the songwriter, I have to be of the opinion that it would still have the same impact, because actually, but the songs would. I mean, the songs are great songs. Yeah. The great songs on those records are still great songs today. Yeah. Oasis, it would have been different because when you watch the Supersonic documentary, the reason that all those people came to that gig in that field was through word of mouth. There's no social media. And if you tell me about a band now and say, oh, have you heard this band? There's this really cool band called fucking, whatever. And within 30 seconds, I can have footage of them on the phone.
Right.
And you can instantly decide whether you like them or not through listening to the music through a tiny little speaker. Whereas when we were coming through, it's kind of like, well, you have to wait till they come to town next. Or you have to buy their records.
Right.
Or listen to their interviews if you're lucky enough to see them on television, you know what I mean? So everything is instant now. It's like there's an instant people who are listening to a trailer of my album which has got four 10-second snippets of music. There's an instant, no, I'm not having it. Yeah. I don't like it.
Fuck this.
Yeah. Fuck, there's a French girl. What's that?
Yeah.
What's that language?
Do I hear scissors?
Well, that'll be French. That's what that'll be. Of course you don't understand it.
Right.
So there's an instant reaction to it, whether it be an instant adulation or instant indifference. It's just bang, it's there. You don't have to wait. So I think when Oasis were coming through, it was the last great rock and roll story of a band that come from nothing, went on to become briefly the biggest band in the world, and then social media happened, and then the world changed.
Yeah. It is crazy to me how big you guys were. I was saying that before, but like that was
it's crazy to you.
It's crazy.
That's being in it.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. But just like it's funny because watching that doc too, just like you were saying, I think in an interview at the time, we're we're the best band in the world, and I was like, that's so sick. That's like because you were the biggest band, and looking back on that now, I mean, what was it like to, kind of thinking about that documentary and looking back at that time?
It was good.
Yeah. It
was good because it only focused on the glory years.
Yeah.
So you're not digging up, the other shit.
Yeah.
So it was good reliving all that time, but I'd made peace with it all anyway.
Yeah.
So I didn't particularly learn anything new about me or about it, or I didn't see it from a different perspective. I was quite shocked that when they said, it was 2.5 years from when you're signing off Social Security to walking on the stage at Nebworth, I was like, what, are you fucking sure? Yeah. I've had parties that last longer than 2.5 years. And that was about it. Other than that, I guess because I was writing the songs and I was directing it and driving the car, let's say, no one's going to tell me anything about it that shocks me, you know what I mean? But I loved reminiscing about it. And there were stories that I'd forgotten and footage that I was like, well, I don't even remember that being taken.
Yeah.
And I think when I watched the final thing, I thought it was a great way. The last line is it. The last line in it is, the records are son of his time, but people will never forget the way you made them feel. You know what I mean? And I thought, well, that's a brilliant way to end it. You know what I mean? And the power of that band is incredible because it's got Oasis is now going into its 3rd decade, and there's still a new generation of fans who've come through, and they have a social media perception. They've never seen Oasis, and they're never going to see it. So, but they have this social media perception of what Oasis was. I don't necessarily tend to agree with it, but they come to the gigs and they fucking love these songs that they weren't even born when they come out, and it's like, wow, we did something pretty fucking special, pretty special for it to keep regenerating itself. It's pretty.
And you knew it. I mean, you knew it at the time too. Yeah. That's the thing that's crazy. It's like these.
Well, I knew enough about music. I'm a music fan, and honestly, I went to bed the night before I wrote "Live Forever," thinking it was okay being in a band. I enjoyed this being in a band and playing live to 7 people. I woke up the next day and wrote "Live Forever." When I went to bed that night, I knew I was going to be in the biggest band in the world. Because I knew enough about music. And I'd read enough music magazines, and I'd listened to enough great music to know this is a great song. And if that's the benchmark, then fucking hold on to your hats. It's about to get pretentious.
Can I ask about your brother? The last few months.
He's an internet superstar.
He is an internet superstar. I think it was interesting seeing you now putting out this record, and just he has not he said some stuff, in the last few months.
He's obsessed.
And I was just curious,
as lots of people are.
how that was, or
there's not enough hours in the day for me to get through the shit I've got to get through.
Yeah.
I don't know where he finds the time to sit on the fucking on Twitter. But it's clearly intoxicating for him. And I look at it philosophically. I'm here doing my thing. He's out there also doing my thing. He's promoting my records. And as long as he keeps filling out the little forms at the end of every gig and ticking off the songs that I wrote, it's all good.
You kind of get, it's got to be a little...
It's all good. Well, it is. It's nice to be loved and all that, but don't obsess about me. That's kind of creepy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well then maybe I don't know, how long have we been going? 30 minutes? Okay, maybe we'll do one last fan question here, which is from Amy Lipton. And it's about this new record, and it's, what have you learned most about yourself during the course of making this album? And
the main thing that I learned was that I'm capable now of most things. I'm in the studio. I've learned to absolutely trust my instincts. I've learned that when it actually comes down to it, I'm quite fearless, in the sense that the people around me, when they were listening to Holy Mountain and It's a Beautiful World, this is not the people in the studio, this is the people that run my shit. I actually said that. I said that then. Runs my shit. We're kind of looking at each other going, there's a French girl on this record. And I'm kind of like, this is going to be fucking great. So I think that's the main things that I've learned, is to trust my instincts more, and that I'm kind of fearless when it comes down to it. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in. Who Built the Moon is out November 24th, and that's next Friday.
Black Friday, I believe.
Black Friday.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. So you can line up at Target at midnight to get the record and trample somebody.
Yeah, like the old days.
Just like the old days.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cool. Oh, we can keep talking. We're still on.
Okay. Well, we have got nothing left to talk about.
We hit it all. We talked about everything.
We talked about everything.
That's trippy.
So who else have you had on these things?
We did one with Robert Plant.
Oh, no way.
Which was...
How was he?
He was awesome. I did an interview with him a couple years ago that actually got pretty existential, and